This is a video of a shaker table I built several years ago. I didn't make many videos, but I did take several pictures. Hopefully I can combine the two to show you how it works. I do not have this shaker table anymore, so I can't get measurements or specifics. For this I'm sorry, but I hope you find this enjoyable and useful. This is the mechanical part of the shaker table. You can see the suspension arms bolted in place, but not so tight they can't move freely. In the center on the left you'll see a tall thin board. This was a large paint stirring stick that was used for a return spring. This worked better than anything else I found, even real springs. There is a spring that is adjustable on the right hand side that you will see in the video, but it done very little compared to the paint stick on the left side. Here you can see the pulleys that's shaft mounted with pillow blocks, and the motor comes from an old compressor. Here's the Eccentric. This is what makes the tabletop move. I made this one from a round piece of plastic I found. I have no idea what it was for. I drilled a hole on one side the same size as the shaft, and then I welded a piece of flat steel to the shaft, drilled a hole and bolted the Eccentric in place so it wouldn't spin. As this Eccentric spins, it strikes the caster on the left here that's bolted to this 2x4 coming down. That forces that center 1x4 to the left. The paint stirrer used as a return spring causes it to snap back quickly. This is what makes the gold walk across the table. It's basically the same principle as when you're panning for gold. You tilt your pan up and tap the top of the pan and the gold walks up. This is a short video of it in action. You can see as the Eccentric spins, pushing the center 1x4 towards the paint stick pushes it back like a spring. Here's the mounting brackets for the tabletop. On the four corners here, I drilled a hole in these small boards and then countersunk it. That way the bolt heads would be recessed. Here the top's mounted to the brackets. The nuts can be adjusted up and down to raise or lower the tabletop at that corner. Here the plywood top is installed. I built a lower base for this mechanical part to sit on, then screwed the mechanical part to the base and anchored the base to the floor. I used contact cement to secure plexiglass to the plywood top. Then I used a heat gun to heat and bend the front down. I ended up cutting this off later. I also heated the back and bent it up later on. Here I'm laying out the lines where the grooves will be cut. I traced around 3 funnels here to lay out where the discharge ports will go. I took a router and cut a recess for the lip on the funnels, then cut out the hole with the jigsaw. Here you can see the funnels setting flush in that recess. I epoxied these in place later on. I made a jig using a wider board with a small strip screwed to it. This allowed me to route a straight line by placing the flat side of the router base against the strip, using it as a guide. I set my router bit about 1/8 of an inch deeper than this board. Then I placed a piece of flat metal under the board on the left side, raising it about 1/8 of an inch. This allowed the grooves to be routed at a depth of 1/8 inch on the right side and being flush on the left. This allowed the material to work out of the grooves and wash off the table. Here you can see the back's been heated and bent up, the sides have been installed, and a gutter has been installed on the front. This is the bottom side of the table where you can see the mounting brackets for the table, as well as I've put some supports under the gutter, and spray foam has been used to support the funnels. Here the sides of the table and the front have been sealed with caulk. I painted the tabletop green. This will help make it easier to see the gold. I made a spray bar from PVC by drilling 1/8 inch holes about 1 inch apart. This spray bar was held in place by L-shaped brackets made from 2x2s, and then I secured them to the bottom base. I used some 1-hole straps that you can get from the hardware store in the electrical department to hold the PVC spray bar to the 2x2 brackets. The spray bar would spray water onto this piece of blue material, which is drawer liner, that was attached to the back of the table. This helps level the water out and reduce bubbles. I made a feeder from a large metal funnel I picked up at an auto parts supply. I mounted it to the wall of the shop by using 2 J-shaped brackets made from 3/4 inch tubing with a nut welded to the front side. I then made 2 T-shaped brackets, welded a nut on each side of the T, and a piece of flat metal to the base and bolted that to the funnel. I welded a nut to a piece of threaded rod on one end and then used a piece of round tubing, welded it to the nut. This made a T-handle for adjustment. Once this is put together, you could adjust these T-handles up and down to raise and lower the funnel. The yellow knobs, they were used for locks. They were made by drilling a hole in the 3/4 tubing, welding the nut, and then screwing these knobs in. Once you had the height of the feeder adjusted, you could lock it down in place. I also heated a piece of clear tubing with a heat gun and then forced it onto the bottom of the funnel. Water supply for the feeder comes from the end of the spray bar to a valve behind the right hand side of the feeder. It goes up through a small rubber tube and then into the left side of the funnel. This allows you to adjust your water flow to the feeder, keeping material in a slurry. As material is washed off the table into the gutter, it drains into this bucket. Water runs out of the PVC drain on the left of the bucket back into the storage tank made from a plastic 55-gallon barrel cut in half. An 1100 gallon per hour pump was used to recirculate the water. Water runs through the 1 inch PVC at the left up to the spray bar. The water flow could be adjusted by the valve seen here. The PVC going back down into the blue drum was a return for any water not needed on the table. This also could be adjusted by a valve. Here you can see the 3 hoses coming down from the funnels on the table. They each drain in their own cup, sitting in this black tote. It sits on a metal stand above the pump. And the water drains out of it through this PVC drain right back down in the tank to be recirculated. The cup on the left would be the funnel at the back of the table. This is where most of the gold would be in some black sands. The cup in the center, it would have mostly black sands and some gold. A cup on the right, well, it would have a mixture of black sands and the heaviest of the lights, and occasionally a speck or two of gold. Here's a short video from when I was dialing the table in. It's not perfect yet, but you can see how it operates. material comes out of the feeder onto the table, the lights get washed off into the gutter down into the bucket to be discarded. The gold and the heavies work across the table into the funnels and down into the cups to be panned later. A lot of time was spent test panning each cup as well as the bucket to make sure this table was dialed in perfect. I hope you found this video useful and entertaining. I thank you for watching. Please hit that like and subscribe button.